Miami Dolphins versus Minnesota Vikings, Week 6. Finally back down in Hard Rock Stadium. The Dolphins were up in Cincinnati for Week 4 Thursday night, and then obviously up in New York for Week 5 against the Jets. And now we are finally back down in South Florida for this game. The injury report is looking extra long this week, but before we even get into that, great news that we got this morning on Tua Tagovailoa. He is now out of the NFL's concussion protocol. He won't play this week. He's not playing tomorrow versus the Vikings, but next Sunday, Sunday Night Football, Dolphins versus Steelers, is when he makes his return. What a storyline that is. Brian Flores returns to Miami is when Tua makes his return. Really, that game's probably the biggest of the season, and it's also in Miami. But now with the injury report, like I said, it's really long this week, but Tua Tagovailoa, as we know, he's out. Kader Kohou is doubtful with his oblique injury. That really sucks. Obviously, we know that we're down on those cornerbacks, so having that Kader Kohou, who's been phenomenal this season, being an undrafted free agent, it's going to suck for him being out. Now, for the questionable guys, Teron Armstead, Teddy Bridgewater, Elijah Campbell, Raheem Mostert, and Durian Smythe. Teddy Bridgewater's also cleared from the concussion protocol, so he's going to be active tomorrow, but he's not. Obviously, we know Skylar Thompson's going to start. Raheem Mostert has said he's going to play, so that is looking more than likely going to happen. Teron Armstead, we know that even if he doesn't practice all week, it does not mean that he's not playing. I'm hoping he can fight through, but we'll see what happens. If he needs to sit another week, that would really suck, but obviously, for him to stay healthy for the whole season, I take that over just for this game. And then obviously Xavier Howard said that he is going to play, which is great, because like I said, even with Kader Kohou being out, that's going to suck. But yeah, this game's a really important one. You win this game tomorrow, you move up to 4-2 on the season. The Bills play the Chiefs, so there's a really fair chance that they do lose that game. Now we're tied with the Bills, hypothetically, if we win and they lose, and then obviously we're back on top of them because we have that tiebreaker right now from Week 3, and then the Jets play the Packers, I think, in Green Bay, which is going to be a tough game for the Jets. I think the Packers should win that game, and if they do, we're ahead of them, just record-wise, and that'll put us back number 1 in the AFC East. That's just all hypothetical, but obviously we know that it's the Skylar Thompson show this week. Teddy's going to back him up. Tua is inactive. From what we saw last week, it wasn't what we saw in preseason. That's what I'll say. It was not what we saw in preseason. He was the preseason MVP in the NFL. But obviously we did not see that Skylar Thompson versus the Jets. A lot of mistakes, was holding the ball for a long time, a lot of bad reads, misunderstandings, just miscommunications, a lot of bad things going on in that game, but we're trying to put that all behind us. Tua is going to be on the sidelines, which is just going to help in general, because many teammates have said that even just having Tua around, the vibe of him being around, helps everybody out. So obviously he'll be out there giving tips to Skylar, whatever. But yeah, we're going to need him to step up. I think Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, those two guys, better have a show. Jalen Waddle has not been good basically since like the Ravens game. Actually, no, he was good in the Bills game. Bengals game, he did not get many looks. Jets game, he got like 2 receptions, I think. So he's going to need a step up in this game. Tyreek Hill has been there, but we have not seen that arm launch. And obviously, we saw Skylar Thompson make some great plays going downfield. But I think a lot of that is just in the head. Obviously you can launch it downfield. You throw a pick, it's preseason. Like, it's fine. You lose the game, whatever, it's fine. Like, it's just practice. But you can't make those decisions. You can't make those mistakes really in the regular season. I think that's in his head. What if I make an interception? What if I lose this game? Which isn't the best mindset to have, but also not the very worst. But we're going to go ahead and focus on these matchups tomorrow. The main one being Justin Jefferson versus Xavier Howard. Going to talk about Justin Jefferson in a little bit, where the 5 things the Dolphins need to win this game. But yeah, we know what he can do. Top 3 receiver in this league, in my opinion, but he's not 1 or 2. Xavier Howard, coming off his injury, didn't play last week. The week before was torched for a 75-yard touchdown and ended up leaving the game with that groin injury later in that game. But he's been off to a really sluggish start this season. Obviously, we know he's been kind of banged up in most of these games, hasn't been 100%, but that's really not an excuse. You're known as a top 10, very least, to some people top 10, or I'm sorry, for some people top 5 or even top 3. You can't be playing like this in the first 5 weeks to start the season. I'm really hoping Josh Boyer doesn't pull some stupid stuff out. I'm really hoping he does not blitz a lot this game, because that obviously is not going to end well for. If there's a one-on-one with Justin Jefferson, that's not going to end in our favor. So I'm hoping that Josh Boyer really plans this out carefully. You also have guys like Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne, who's back down in his stadium he played in college at Irv Smith, who's been off to a great start this season. Vikings have a deadly offense, not even to mention Dalvin Cook on this team. Kirk Cousins, who's been remarkable this season. Vikings are 4-1. They have not really, dominated many teams. Sure, they played great against the Packers in week 1. They were up 21-3, I think, against the Bears last week, and they barely won that game because of a great defensive play. The week before, they barely beat the Saints without Jameis Winston, Alvin Kamara, or Michael Thomas in London. It was a game of inches where the Saints kicker, I don't think it's still Will Lutz, who barely missed a kick, hit the side crossbar, then the bottom, and then bounced out, just barely. But what was that? I was talking about the matchups, but Justin Jefferson versus Xavier Howard, that probably is going to determine the game. We're not gonna stop Jay Jettis, but I'm hoping that we can slow him down, and Xavier Howard may be the guy that has to do that, especially with basically our third cornerback being out, because obviously Byron Jones, we know he's not playing already, and Nick Needham is more of a slot corner, so the main guy that Xavier Howard's replacement would be if he were to be out is Kader Kohou, and he is out, so we're going to need Xavier Howard to actually take this matchup on Justin Jefferson. And on the other side of the field, well, technically not, but, switched around, Tyreek Hill versus Patrick Peterson. The Vikings defense is iffy. Their pass rush has been pretty good, but the run defense has not been great, which is something that we're going to need to improve on. I'll talk about that in a bit too, but Tyreek Hill's got to capitalize on this. Patrick Peterson, obviously, he's a great cornerback. He's had experience. He's a former Pro Bowl, all that type of stuff, but he isn't a Jalen Ramsey. He isn't a Jair Alexander or Trey White or anybody like that. I think that Tyreek Hill, you forget that this isn't only about Tyreek Hill. Then you have Jalen Waddle here. Not sure if Mike Gesicki's going to be used. You got to use the running backs, obviously. Maybe preferably Mostert, considering what Edmonds has done this season. But Cedric Wilson, he's not been great. Not been off to a great start of the season. Trent Sherfield, all those guys I think will need to be used, and even maybe Eric Izukama could potentially play this year, or sorry, not this year, this week. But yeah, I'd say our offense is probably better than their defense, but their offense is probably better than our defense. So I think that this game will be high scoring, but we'll move on to the 5 things that I think that the Dolphins will need to prove out there to win this game. Number 1 and 2 were kind of the same: contain Justin Jefferson and contain Dalvin Cook. The Dolphins' run defense has not been good this year at all, and especially last week versus the Jets was awful. Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Zach Wilson, Braxton Berrios. If you got the ball in a run play, you had a great game. All 4 or 5 touchdowns that were scored last week were all on the ground, none were in the air. Not something you want to see as that defensive run coordinator or defensive coordinator, whatever. But this defense has got to improve and play well. They're not going to stop this defense, but definitely, they're not going to stop the Vikings offense, but definitely got to slow them down. Justin Jefferson, like I talked about, Xavier Howard's got to have a great game, because I believe he should be the one guarding him. I don't see anybody else doing that job. It better not be Keon Crossan. All love to Keon Crossan. He's been really good this year too, but Xavier Howard better start the game on Justin Jefferson. And Dalvin Cook, I think he's going to be their main guy. Obviously, he's been really good this year too. I didn't even show the Vikings injury report because they literally 3 names on there, but I think Alexander Mattison was one of the names that were questionable. So I'm kind of just hoping he doesn't play, because it's not like a game-changing really player for them. And if it is, then that's really a guy that you kind of eliminate out of that, and you only focus on Dalvin Cook for that run defense, which is obviously just good to know. So it's basically just with the defense in general, got to step up. Xavier Howard, the run game, or the run defense, the line, really got to improve there for this week. Number 3, continue where the run game left off. That one is pretty big. Raheem Mostert had a great game last week. I think over like 105, 110 rushing yards, and also a touchdown that was like a 15-yard rushing touchdown. Chase Edmonds had like 1 carry for like a yard and like 2 drops. Really not a great game from him. But Raheem Mostert obviously looks like Mike McDaniel wants to use him as the Dolphins running back number 1. And if we can continue where that left off, I think that if they want to run the ball and beat us with that, I think we need to run the ball. So we need to continue where we left off. Raheem Mostert, like I said, who had a great game last week. If you can continue, maybe go on a bit of a streak here, that can be really, really good. If Raheem Mostert can have not the same game, but at least somewhat close to that game, it'll take a lot of the pressure off of Skylar Thompson for this game. Number 4, can the pass rush please get going? Like, I know that we don't have just statistically or just like obviously clearly one of the best pass rushes in the league, but you pay Emmanuel Ogbah all that money. I don't think he's had a single sack all season. Zach Sieler, who's been great in the run game, but like in the pass rush, he's got to improve there. Christian Wilkins has been good in the run game too, but I think the pass rush has really got to improve. I think we had like 2 or 3 sacks maybe, and Brandon Jones had one of them, and then I think Jerome Baker might have had the other. Maybe it was Christian Wilkins. I forgot who it was, but I think if you kind of bring the pressure on Kirk Cousins, it may force him to make some stupid mistakes. One of those maybe situations where Brandon Jones comes on the side, whoever it is, maybe Holland, throws it up thinking Justin Jefferson is somehow going to come down with it. Xavier Howard makes a great pick. At least I'm just hoping. I'm like predicting what's going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, this game is going to be an important one. You win this game, you go 4-2. Focus on next week. You have the Steelers with Kenny Pickett, the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, a bye week, and then you have the Texans. Then you have that tough stretch. But if you can win the next 5 after these or something, like this game is going to be an important one. So my score prediction for this game, I think the Dolphins will win this game. I think Skylar Thompson, the Vikings lost to a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush last season after they thought it would be a pretty easy win. So now, you play another backup quarterback or third stringer in Skylar Thompson. I think the Dolphins will win this game. I'm going to say that the Dolphins win this one. It's in a pretty close one. I'm going to go that the Dolphins win this game 31-24. I think it will be a high scoring game, and it will be somewhat close too. But I'm gonna go 31-24. Not really sure what that's telling me, but I just think that that's how it's going to go. High scoring game, 2 great offenses, and I think that Skylar Thompson will be comfortable. You have Tua on the sideline with you, probably Jacoby, and you will have Teddy Bridgewater on the sideline too, because he's going to be playing. If Skylar struggles or injury, which praying not, but that will wrap up. Looking forward to tomorrow's game, pretty big one. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace.